Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in this international panel of alumni. We're here to welcome you to Cal as part of the class of 2026. We have an audience joining us from across the globe. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for taking out the time. This session is, to help you to transition to Cal, to answer any questions that you have if you're wondering about while you leave Berkeley, or while you leave for Berkeley from your home countries. If you have any questions, if you want to learn about any opportunities, any exciting journeys that our alums have had and pathways that they had at Berkeley, and just to learn from their experiences, to answer your questions. So the session is going to be structured in a way. We're going to do our introductions. We'll do some questions that we prepared for you, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A. You'll see at the bottom of the link or the chat or the video that you're watching, there'll be a link to a Google form where you can ask some questions that will come through directly to us, and we will try to address as many as possible before the end of our session today. Before we dive in, my name is Umar Akram. I am from the class of 2017. I studied political economy while at Cal, and I'm currently situated in Toronto, Canada. I'm working in the finance industry in sustainable finance. While at Cal, I also co-founded a startup working to eradicate child mortality in the developing world. And I occasionally write for a few newspapers, opinion editorials focused on international affairs and the economic situation across the globe. I'm joined by a panel of alums from diverse backgrounds. And before we go ahead, I'll ask Andrea, would you like to start off and introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Umar. So my name is Andrea. I'm originally from Quito, Ecuador. I was an undergrad at UC Berkeley, and I graduated in 2015. My major was molecular and cellular biology. And while at Berkeley, I was involved with the People's Test Preparation Service, which used to focus on outreach programs to prepare people for the SAT for college. But since that's not really that mandatory in college anymore, I believe they have changed, somewhat pivoted direction to just a college mentorship program. Currently, I'm in my PhD program at the University of Colorado Boulder. So I'm back in the States and still have about 4 more years to go, but very exciting stuff.
Thank you, Andrea. Anna, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ana. I am from Bogota, Colombia, and this is where I'm currently at. I graduated with a bachelor's in political science and a minor in human rights with the class of 2020. When I was at Cal, I was a student assistant for the Berkeley International Office, and I am currently an incoming master's student at Johns Hopkins University.
Thank you. Hero, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Umar. So I was born and raised in Dubai, and I came to Berkeley and I graduated in 2019 in nutrition and dietetics. That was my undergraduate degree. And following that, I went to UC San Diego Health to continue my dietetic internship to get the registered dietitian title. That's mandatory to practice in the US. But I ended up coming back to Dubai in 2020, and I'm working as a dietitian here at a cloud kitchen company. So there's a lot of product development and working with menus and chefs. So completely different from my original plan. But yeah, it ended up working out. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Jolly, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Jolly. I graduated from Berkeley in the fall of 2020. So not too long back. I'm currently working with Accenture out here in San Francisco, so still in the US. At Berkeley, I studied political economy and currently my work with Accenture is in the area of data analytics. At Berkeley, I was involved with the African Student Association because I'm originally from Nigeria, and also was part of a music club. So it's great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining this panel, everyone. As you can see, we have a diverse group of students from diverse majors and diverse backgrounds as well. And we'll definitely be benefiting from their experiences throughout this session today. And I feel like a dinosaur here because I realize I'm the class of 2017 and everyone here is after me. So no worries. I think I'll dive right into the questions. And, perhaps, Hiro, I'll start off with you. What was your experience moving to a different country for your education?
Well, something that I'm glad I did, first of all. I can't imagine not having come to Berkeley or the US in general, because I think, when you study in your home country, you're not exposed as much to different cultures as much as I was when I was in Berkeley. My worldview was very narrow, I feel, and after coming here, coming to Berkeley, I just became so much more aware of things happening across the world, because of course you meet international students as well, right? So there's a lot of exposure there. And I definitely feel that majority of my personal growth in my prime years happened while I was at Berkeley versus when I was in high school. So definitely an unmissable opportunity. Yeah.
Anna, would you like to add to that question?
Yeah, my experience moving to a different country was exciting. I was able to learn from different people, and I met so many amazing students at Berkeley, and I was able to explore different cities in the Bay Area. I really like my time at Cal, and I feel that it's a really good opportunity to get to know the world, also learn from different cultures, and overall, I have a really good experience here.
Wonderful. And Andrea, how's your experience moving to a different country for education?
Yeah, so for me, I knew that I wanted to do science at a very sort of early age. And I also knew that in my country, there were not that many opportunities for that kind of field. And so for me, it was kind of a given that I had to either go to the States or Europe. And I actually started off at Boston College first, and I transferred into Berkeley. So also a transfer student. And I will say that just like the opportunities for involvement in research and just the quality of professors that you get in Berkeley is just, there's no comparison. I mean, I was taught by literally Nobel Prize winners. And that's just something that is very unique to the school. And I think something that people really benefit from, to be just surrounded by so much expertise, especially when you want to get involved in something that is more, that is not really available in your country. It's really quite a great opportunity. And just like everybody said, there is a lot of diversity in terms of culture and people and languages and food. So, and that's something that not, at least where I was in Boston, that wasn't really the reality there. So that's also something I really enjoyed about my time at Cal.
Wonderful. And I definitely would chime into having Nobel Prize winners around you. Every year when the Nobel Prizes are announced, there isn't a moment when you realize, one of your professors or a class that you took was, your professor just became a Nobel Prize winner, and you're like, well, that was my professor. And it's definitely humbling to be at Cal because you're just surrounded by people who have a genuine quest and thirst for seeking out knowledge. And it's a humbling experience to be surrounded by such intelligent people. I think the synergies of being in that environment kind of rub off on you as well, when you're just surrounded by so many smart people. There's intellectual conversations happening around, and there's a culture for Berkeley as well, right? So there's an activism culture. There's an there's so much that rubs off on you that might not be there in your home countries. Not there for me. I would definitely have been a very different person if I hadn't gone to Berkeley and the US as well. I think I'll jump into the next question. What were the benefits of choosing or challenges of choosing to attend a university in a different country? And Jolly, perhaps you'd like to address this question.
Yeah, awesome. In terms of all the benefits, I think you guys already have pretty much echoed some of the benefits of, coming to a place like Berkeley. The proximity you have to resources / I'd say greatness, in terms of the caliber of people you meet, as well as the resources you get access to. Here in the Bay Area, this is we're very close to Silicon Valley, right? And so if you're someone interested in technology, for instance, you get a proximity to all of these resources. So this is some of the benefits, I'd say. In terms of the challenges, as someone coming, I came right out of high school, and maybe a little bit of a culture shock, I'd say, because there's so much diversity. You see people literally from every corner of the world here. So that might not be, depending on where you're coming from, it might be kind of a bit overwhelming to an extent where you might just feel lost in the midst of just so much. So yeah, that's what I consider that a little bit of a challenge.
Thank you. And Andrea, would you like to share some of your experiences?
So just to echo what Jolly was saying, yes, it's very sort of overwhelming, the amount of stuff around you that you can do in terms of academics, in terms of just getting involved, sports, all sort of service activities, all kinds of different groups and clubs that you can join. But I think just while it might be overwhelming at first, it really just becomes a resource for you later on. And eventually you find your sort of niche in your community. And it's great to have just a very large diversity of that, because you can get involved with things you never thought you would be involved in. And then that becomes kind of your new activity or hobby and your people, your community at Berkeley. I will say in terms, again, so just pointing back towards the resources, especially I think if you're want to pursue a career in science, there's really Berkeley is pretty much as good as it gets in terms of just the number of laboratories that you can get involved with, the number of just classes that you can take. And these, having had experiences in laboratories across the world, I can tell you that it's really nice to be in a lab that has a lot of money and resources. And in Berkeley, there's a ton of that. So it's really a great opportunity to just develop as a scientist, if that's what you're into.
Wonderful. And yeah, I'm just going to echo Jolly's, Jolly mentioned Silicon Valley. When I moved to Cal, I never imagined starting my own startup. And it just happened because some of my friends were going to attend a hackathon, and they thought it would be an excellent experience for me to tag along on. And I went with no background with technology. I'm one of those people, if my phone doesn't work, I hit it. And just because of the crossover networks that Berkeley has and the opportunities there, ended up founding a startup, and that reached some standard of success, and there was material and also impact related benefits that I had from that as well. So there's definitely benefits, a lot of benefits. Next question. What resources did you utilize at Cal to help acclimatize you to the campus, as well as being to a new country? And Anna, perhaps you'd want to start off with that question.
Yeah, so in my experience, I was also a transfer student, as Andrea mentioned. I initially went to Berkeley City College, and then I transferred to UC Berkeley in 2018. So the transfer center was one of the resources that I used the most. Also, the Berkeley International Office, the Career Center, they have a specific advisor for international students. And that was really helpful for me after graduating when I was looking for jobs in the US, and going to office hours, talking to your professors and also your classmates. They can be a really good resource to get to know the country, get to know the Bay Area, explore, and just go to different places.
Wonderful. And Jolly, would you have anything to share?
In addition to all of that, I'd say pretty much the counseling services at the Town Center. You might need someone to talk to, especially in your first year. Definitely look into using the counseling and psychological services at the University Health Center there at Berkeley.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of resources around at Berkeley, including health resources. So never feel alone. At the same time, there's a lot of student organizations. Once you're at Berkeley, there's Calapalooza, which is I think it's every semester. It's a fair almost of every club kind of putting themselves out there and letting you know we exist. And the importance of that event is it's because there's so many clubs, and I think you really, as new students, will use those clubs to create your communities, perhaps further your professional goals, build your skill sets, and build who you are as individuals. So whether that's getting involved in the student government, getting involved in the Daily Cal, which is a student-run newspaper, to, we have improv groups, drama groups, you have the Cal Band, you have, cultural organizations. So I myself, I come from Pakistan. So I was president of the Pakistani Students Association, got involved with that fairly early. And then there's a lot of other, other opportunities as well. As I mentioned, there's competitions and, conferences, and there are talks, and there's professors and whatnot. So definitely there's going to be a lot of opportunities for you. And Andrea, I see you want to add something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that at least for me, one of the kind of, not the challenge, but maybe like the part, I'm not really great with bureaucratic stuff. So for me as an international student, you have to have certain things in order, like your documents and all of these kinds of things. And so for that, the international office is really a great resource. So when it comes time for like applying to an OPT to stay in the States after you graduate, they really make that process really easily. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that.
Absolutely. Hiro, do you want to add something?
Yes, just to reiterate what Andrea said, honestly, I think towards the end of your undergraduate degree, when you're looking to stay in the US, or, looking at all the opportunities, definitely visit the iHouse and absolutely refer to the advisors there, because honestly, that is what is going to help make your transition easier. And they will be there for you even when you have started your OPT or your CPT or whatever your work field is. They will always be there for you. So truly thankful to them, especially during COVID as well. I think I really appreciate their presence during that time, and helping students with their visa documentation. I think that can never be thanked enough for. Yeah.
Wonderful, absolutely. Thank you to the Bio Office. And I'll go into our next question. So what did you enjoy about living in the Bay Area and Berkeley? I think a lot of people have questions because Berkeley is going to become their new home, and perhaps they'll leave a part of their heart once they leave Berkeley, or even move within the Bay Area. I think Berkeley becomes home as well. So what did you enjoy about the Bay Area and Berkeley overall? And I think I'll start off with Anna.
Yeah, so I personally like hiking, and Berkeley has a lot of spots that you can go and hike with your friends, your classmates. And I believe during GVO, they take you to Big C, which is one of the hiking spots at Berkeley. And besides that, I enjoy trying different foods from different cultures. And there's a great variety of restaurants in Berkeley and also in the Bay Area. And that's something that I really enjoy while I was living there. And there are also different events happening on campus and outside of campus. You can also go to San Francisco by taking BART. There are different things that are really close by, and that's something that I really like.
Andrea?
Yeah, so you're not the oldest, Umar. I graduated in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a while since I've been in the Bay Area, so it might not hold true everything I say now. But yeah, I think one of the coolest things was to have, apart from just like Berkeley being this kind of, I think they call it berserkly and still maybe reference it like that. So it is a very sort of alternative place to live. But I think that's what I really enjoyed about it, that it was unlike any other place that I've been in, and it had a kind of very peculiar atmosphere and community where, I don't know, you could be weird and still have fun. I also agree that having San Francisco and other places in the Bay Area being so close, that was really great, especially when you're looking for opportunities post-graduation, because you don't have to just look in Berkeley. You can look in San Francisco, you can look in Richmond, Monterey, whatever is near you. And that just increments the amount of opportunities that you have tremendously. So that's really a great advantage of living in the Bay Area.
Wonderful. And Hiro?
All right. So for me, I think it's always been the little things that kind of stick with you even after you graduate. Coming from a place that doesn't have its own fresh produce. And I live in the Middle East, clearly, you know, there's 90% of the food is imported. So I really miss going to Berkeley Bowl and getting, you know, fresh oranges and raspberries and melons and, you know, just those things that you really crave when you're not there anymore. Or going for a boba run. You don't get as good boba in Dubai, that's for sure. I've compared it all. And specific lanes and specific streets in Berkeley, Strawberry Creek, you know, you will have flashbacks when you leave college of these places where you sat, or where you ate a burrito, or where, you know, were just sitting with your friends. So it's those things that you can't, you know, compare with any other place, just because of the innate beauty of Berkeley.
Wonderful. You had my mouth salivating at remembering all the foods from Berkeley as well. It's definitely, the Bay Area is it's a unique place, and definitely a lot of culinary gems surround you. A lot of hidden secrets as well that you'll explore and discover as you become students there. And Jolly, last but not least.
Yeah, I mean, on top of what everyone said, I'd say for me, I pretty much just appreciate the fact that in the Bay Area here, we didn't have to deal with snow. You know, it's never snowed since I've been here. So I love that for Berkeley, or just the Bay Area as a whole. It can get cold around winter time, but overall it's relatively bearable compared to other parts of the US. So love that.
I'm based in Toronto, Canada now, so I definitely miss the Bay Area for those reasons as well, Jolly. You take advantage of those 4 years as they pass by really quickly. And I think perhaps if you see some of her backgrounds, you're going to be noticing that Berkeley is an immensely beautiful campus. You will have some of the best sunsets you will see in your life that you can see from campus. Something I think we take for advantage, as we don't realize the beauty that surrounds us as well. You know, you can walk across campus, there's creeks, there's viewpoints, there's the Campanile, there's, you know, the redwood trees, there's a forest on campus, right, with immensely tall trees. Just there's a lot of beauty surrounding us. So it's definitely something I miss about living in the Bay Area in Berkeley. The next question, did you choose to stay in the US after graduation and why? Andrea, would you like to start off with that question?
Yeah, so I think for me, I've always wanted to go back and back to my home country, Ecuador, and implement what I learned in the States. But like I said, there's not many opportunities in science there. And so I found myself constantly coming back to the States to kind of just keep developing myself as a scientist to hopefully at some point go back and be able to do something. So I actually did I crossed the pond for my master's. I went to London, I did my master's there, but now I'm back in the States to do my PhD. So I'm currently at CU Boulder, and I'm doing a PhD in molecular and cellular biology. And yeah, the main reason why I keep coming back to the States is because you have all these opportunities that I just don't have at home. And so the ability to be able to just keep coming back for your education, for professional development, for things like that, is really, I think one of the biggest advantages in the States, for sure.
Absolutely, I second that. And Jolly, perhaps you'd want to jump into this question as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm still in the US, and my plan is to, in the long run, go back and do things back home in Nigeria, but I definitely foresee myself being here and going to grad school and just kind of building my career in the data science field for the next couple years before I decide to go do anything back home. And part of the reason for that is, guess what Andrea said, there's a lot of resources here that I'm trying to leverage, sort of build my career, make the right networks so that when I'm back home, I can also leverage those. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wonderful. And Anna?
Yeah, so after graduating from Berkeley, I did my OPT, which is a 1-year option that international students have to work in the US after graduation. And in my case, since I studied political science, I was interested in international relations and immigration law. And I applied to different jobs, and I ended up working for an immigration law firm in Auckland. And that was an experience that helped me to understand the immigration system and how that's related to foreign policy and how that can affect like different aspects of politics and society in a country. And that's something that I have also applied to my personal life, given that my parents are Chinese immigrants in Colombia. And I was born and grew up in Bogota. So that's something that I have always been interested in, that I continue to involve my interest in. And because of this reason, I went back to Colombia, where I'm currently at, but I'll be coming back to the States to pursue my master's at Johns Hopkins University this year in the fall.
Wonderful. Yeah, so just for perspective, I didn't choose to stay in the US. After graduation, I had opportunities lined up here in Toronto, Canada. And, I think the Berkeley name and brand carries forward across the globe. There's tremendous resources available as well. And now I'm actually president of the Berkeley Club of Canada, which is the Alumni Chapter based in Canada. And it's, just the Berkeley, being a Berkeley alum opens so many doors. You have so many connections that you can build just based off your common connection of having attended Berkeley. I'm now friends with people from the class of 1955. I'm friends with people who have the highest honors in Canada. I've served in C-suites, and just based off my connection with Berkeley, we're always able to meet. And if you imagine someone, you have 45, 50 years of age difference, you've never met before, how do you connect? Well, you go to Cal and you definitely have there's something in there. There's something that you just become part of one big family. that you can take advantage of wherever you go, whether that's back home, whether that is across the globe. And it's something that I think is unique to universities in the US as well. It's this culture of your university culture. It becomes part of you that I don't think that's so definitive of universities elsewhere in the world either. And just last question before we go into your the questions that our audience are sending for us. I know there's a lot of questions, so we'll take this last question. Is what did you wish you knew before coming to Berkeley? And Jolly, perhaps you'd want to start off there.
All right, I'd highlight something that this is kind of more like advice as well as something I wish someone had told me. When you get to Berkeley, as much as possible, try to find a mentor. It could be someone who is a senior during your freshman year who can sort of guide you through some of the key things you need to do, especially as regards to your academic requirements. It's gonna help you, and it will save you. It may save you time even, because in my own case, I ended up taking some classes I wish that I would never have taken, otherwise just a waste of my time, to be honest. If someone had told me differently, I would have done otherwise. So mentorship is something that will really help, you guys when you get to Berkeley a lot, find someone.
Absolutely. A mentor definitely helps. Reach out to perhaps people in your classes who are senior than you. Reach out to people who become friends. You should definitely rely on your friends, rely on people around you, and be open. Be open to recognizing that a lot of you come from your high schools and you are the smartest people in your schools. You're the smartest people in your communities. And I think once you come to Berkeley, you need to recognize you're now surrounded by the smartest people in the world. So definitely try to learn from each other. I think what I would say is the benchmarks for success in high school are very different from the benchmarks for success in university. So in high school, it's a lot about making sure you get to Cal, making sure you get to Berkeley. So you're definitely trying to check those boxes. But once you're at Berkeley, you have a lot more. The world is your cocoon. It's the world is your oyster. You can really do whatever you want. And I think the opportunity to come to a university like Berkeley is definitely recognizing where you want to end up in life, who you are as a person, what fulfills you intellectually, and what you want to perhaps do professionally as well. And there's definitely a lot of resources to explore that. And I think with that being said, I'll jump into some of the questions that are coming in. So if any of you have any questions, definitely do, start putting them in there's an option to put questions underneath the video. So please use that link to send in your questions. We will answer them. We have about 25 minutes, so I think we'll have an opportunity to jump into a lot of your questions. And as some of you put in your questions, I'd ask perhaps a fun question. What was your favorite food spot on or around campus?
Can I go? I think I spent a lot of money on Asian Ghetto, Thai Basil, that particular restaurant, yeah. That was my favorite spot. Took a lot of my cash.
Jolly didn't even wait for that. He's like, let me head into that running. Here, I see you unmuted yourself. Yeah.
I'm dying to say this. I hope it's still there though. Pedro's Brazil Cafe on University Avenue. I think not their main restaurant, but their small shack that's right off Oxford Street. And they had this fantastic vegetarian rice bowl with avocado and sour cream and a very unique hummus dressing. So it was like a mix of Middle Eastern and Brazilian flavors. And I was like, I need to replicate this in Dubai. So I'm trying to still.
Yeah, Brazil Cafe is definitely really good. It's not on University Avenue anymore. I think they stopped opening the restaurant back in by the end of 2019. But it was a really good restaurant. You can still go to the one in Oxford. But I'll say that Platanos is a restaurant on University Avenue. It's a Salvadorian restaurant. It's really good, and I highly recommend going there. Also, maybe going a little bit far from campus, but going to Telegraph Avenue in Oakland, they have different restaurants. There are Korean, Ethiopian food, and Indian restaurants. They're like a different variety of places that you can go to, and you can also like maybe go to San Francisco or any other places outside of Berkeley. But yeah, that'll be my recommendation.
Yeah, I would say, again, I hope this is still there, but Jupiter's pizza place, really fun atmosphere, really good pizza. Cream was like the very sort of standard Berkeley thing to go have a ice cream sandwich there. And I know, well, for those who might be 21 or will at some point turn 21, there's the really fun church bar that used to be a church, but then became kind of like that's like right next to campus. I don't know what it's called anymore, but I'm sure it's still there because it was kind of like a stable thing there. But really, yeah, bars are fun there once you turn 21.
Just to add to that, Omar, I think one of the things I wish I knew before coming to Berkeley was that you should not waste your opportunities by just eating at the same places every single time, but really take those extra 20 minutes to go somewhere far off from campus and try that place, because you won't get the chance in your later in life. So just put that extra stretch and do that, because you better than regretting, right?
And hey
Absolutely.
guys, for those of you who are gonna live in iHouse, the iHouse Dining also have, I think they have the best food on campus, better than the actual on-campus food, according to most people. So if you're gonna live in the Berkeley International House, not the office, because the office actually has moved from the Berkeley International House. So iHouse is great food for you guys.
And if I could chime in, I would say definitely bubble tea. It's a Berkeley experience. I'm here in Toronto. I look for people to grab bubble tea. It just doesn't come naturally. There's something in Berkeley when you're doing a problem set and you just want to take a break and just go get bubble tea. And I'll say food-wise, these are kind of, I think, treat yourself spots, or when you kind of want to celebrate something. So we, Great China, I used to love the food there. And then there's some food which is unique to the Bay Area. It's Burmese food. So there's Burma Superstar, which is, I think, down on Telegraph. And yeah, there's a lot of food that you don't find anywhere else in the world that's there in Berkeley. Before we all keep on talking about food, because I think we have a panel of foodies here, I'm going to ask a question. Was it hard to make friends and find a community on campus? Hiro, yeah.
I can answer that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was very easy, because you have to remember one thing, that everybody's just as scared as you in the beginning. Everybody is just as nervous. Everybody wants to be, liked and loved. So everybody's trying to be their best. And once you recognize that and you're aware about that, it becomes easier, and you're not so conscious of yourself, and you're more open and vocal. So it just becomes smooth by then.
I would like to add something from my experience. Given that I transferred to Cal as a junior, most of my classes were full of students who already had their own groups or they already knew each other from their first year. But I was able to meet other students through different events on campus, and also for my classes, I met students who started at Cal as a freshman and also like as a transfer student. I went to events that were hosted by Berkeley International Office, also by the Transfer Center. I joined different clubs, and definitely clubs are spaces where you can meet people from like different majors, different backgrounds, and they always have activities happening outside of campus, like fellowships or like going on trips to like Tahoe or any other places. So that's something that was really helpful for me to make friends and find a community on campus.
For me, I will say, because again, it's a huge university with tons of people, so it can definitely be overwhelming. And you're thrown into situations where, I don't know, if you live in a dorm and you're living with new people and things like that. So you might be thrown into situations where there are people around you. You might not completely jive with those people, and that's okay. I think joining a club was really what kind of brought a sense of community into my university experience, because you have some sort of communal interest when you join that club, and so whatever else they do, it's kind of a bonus because you get to like interact with them through this commonality, but get to explore different things that people are doing. So I will say join a club, any club.
I definitely agree with that. And I think it's the easiest place in the world to make friends. After you leave college, you realize it's a lot difficult. It's a lot more difficult to find friends of the same quality. I'm just going to ask a question that came in our chat is, how difficult is it to participate in research as an undergrad? And Andrea, maybe you have had some experience with your
right.
exposure.
Yeah, so I will say for me as a transfer student, it was a little bit difficult to get involved. There's definitely a lot of open positions as an that are offered to undergrads in different labs. But I will say it's not always a guarantee that you will get a research experience while at campus. But for me, when I did the OPT, your department does, at least in my case, my department would have postings of different labs, not just in Berkeley, but in UC San Francisco and different types of universities. So when I did my sort of post-bac year, which is an option if you don't have sort of the research opportunities that you want during your bachelor years, then so I joined a lab at UC San Francisco for about a year and a half afterwards. So I will say it's not the end of the world if you don't get a research opportunity right away in your undergrad years. It is a very competitive field because there is a lot of labs that have open positions, but again, there's a lot of students that want to be in those positions. So if you are someone like me that doesn't end up finding something during your BA, there's definitely opportunities after you graduate to have research experience.
And a question about, kind of, Anna, you want to add something? Yep, sorry.
Yeah, when I was a student at Cal, I was able to do research as a social science student. There is a program called the Undergraduate Research Apprentice program, or also Europe, and that's a really good resource for new students. Usually they open applications every, I think it's the first or the second week of the semester. And so during that application process, you can apply to 3 different projects, and they're like they're projects from different programs. And if you get selected for an interview, then after that, they'll send you an email to let you know whether or not you got into any of the research projects that you apply to, and then you can only choose one. But that's something that I did when I was an undergrad, and that was a really good experience for me because I was able to work under a political science professor, and I met other classmates who were in the same project as me, and they shared similar interests. So that's something that I'll recommend for new students to check out during their time at Cal.
Absolutely. Even if research isn't really the career track you want to go into directly or academia, it definitely opens you to, making friendships, learning more, learning, how to improve your writing, improving your skills and creating, those professional data skills and, also kind of something to put on your resume as well. And, Berkeley is a research university, and recently the university is also improving its initiatives to making sure that research opportunities are open to all undergraduate students. So there's a lot of work taking place on campus as well in regards to that. Now there's a question about kind of academics, right? Everyone's coming to Berkeley, not to make friends as per se, hopefully they are, but one of the main aims is also to get an education, a world-class education. And with that, there's a question about, how challenging is it? How rigorous is it? How competitive is it? And what was your experience like?
Yeah, I can perhaps start with that. So I will say the science careers are quite challenging. You're definitely gonna be thrown into these huge classes that can be very challenging. I will say one of my favorite things at Berkeley were the TAs, the teacher assistants. They were amazing. Like physics, the whole reason I passed physics was because of my TAs. And I will say one of the biggest things that I learned was how to actually study for exams there, because it is very different to sort of how I used to study for exams in high school. In high school, it was just, I don't know, I would go to class, I would absorb information, and then I would go take the exam and that'd be fine. But here in Berkeley, I really found that the way to succeed isn't just by like studying the night before for my exams, but it's really to just kind of constantly keep up to date with the material that is being presented to you on sort of a day-to-day or weekly basis. So the sooner you can get organized, the sooner you can sort of learn how to keep that information constant in your brain and not just leave it to the night before, I would say the more successful you will be in terms of grades.
Yaro, yeah.
Just to add to Andrea's statement, STEM definitely is challenging. I mean, it's challenging for a reason because there's so much content, and you have to be proficient in all of it, and bio, chem, physics especially. But the one thing that helped me, in addition to, of course, the TA support, was study groups at SLC. I think the reason why I passed organic chem was because of that added support which I had. Because you have these incredibly smart students teaching you and giving a student's perspective, how they would view the subject. And I think that's something you can't replace. And again, I owe them so much for taking out time out of their undergraduate career to teach us and support our coursework. So do make use of study groups, because that's your brownie point there.
Wonderful. And, I think the opportunity to take classes, right? It's just, I wish I was a student again, because, I don't think there's any time other in your life when you're going to have so much more time on your hands. You have a lot of time, you don't realize it. So make use of that time and organize yourself, as Andrea mentioned. And yeah, definitely try to take advantage of every class, become friends with a professor. I try every year, every semester to befriend one of your professors. And I think that this kind of what I'm talking about kind of ties into perhaps the last question I want to ask for today. What is the last piece of advice you would want to leave to our audience before we close this event? And I think I'd like everyone to kind of chime in on this one.
Well, for me, real quick, I'd say when you get to Berkeley, reverse engineer your entire Berkeley experience. And what I mean by that is this: ask yourself, where do I want to be at the end of 4 years? And what do I need to do to increase the probability of having that outcome? Look for all of the resources that will get you to that outcome and kind of work your way through it and have fun.
That's great. Yeah, I will say, one, join a club, and two, go to office hours. Office hours are great, and not enough people take advantage of that because you get one-on-one time with your TAs, with your professors. It's a really great opportunity to, and if you want research experience and stuff, the easiest way is to kind of befriend that professor. So office hours are a great resource.
Anna? Yeah.
To add into that, I'll say don't be too hard on yourself. Maybe it could be a little bit overwhelming going to a different country, especially if you're by yourself and like getting to know and meet people that you don't know at the beginning. But also, like, it's okay to focus on academics, but don't make that your priority. It's you should also enjoy your experience while you're in the Bay Area, like explore different cities, get to know your classmates, join clubs and office hours. I highly agree. They're really important. And if you feel like you don't understand something in class, don't be afraid to ask your professors or talk to your TA. They're there to help you. And also talk to your classmates, inform study groups. They're the most helpful people that you can have in your classes and to study for midterms and finals. And that's something that helped me when I was at undergrad at Cal.
Hero?
To add to Anna, like she said, you need to get bogged down completely by everything that's happening around you because there's so much happening around you. So it can get overwhelming. But I think the trick is to remember that, in the long run, what you will look back is the experience. It's the people you met. It's the memories you created. So as much as you might have a certain plan of how things would go, leave rooms for spontaneity. At least give yourself one day of the week where you don't open your laptop to study or do anything, on the laptop basically, and just explore and give yourself that one day, because when you look ahead 4 years.
Alert from low battery.
Oops. When you look ahead 4 years from now, like I always say, you will remember only that. You won't remember anything else.
Absolutely, and I think I'll tag along with Hero's response is spontaneity. There's outside your classes, there's so much going around on campus, right? Everything from there's so many talks, there's so many visiting scholars, dignitaries, opportunities on campus. Just go in, sit in a talk. There's a lot of events happening. Take part in those, because when would you be able to sit in for an hour-long meeting during lunch to listen to an author or a writer talk about best-selling book or something like that, right? And then just lastly, I think Jolly mentioned reverse engineer. Even if you don't know where you want to be at the end of 4 years, don't worry, you can find your way during your time at Cal. And I think how you can find your way is really joining those clubs, having conversations with people, with professors, opening yourself, and you'll find a way. Look to develop your skill sets. See, whether it's everything and anything helps. Whether it's graphic design, whether it's writing, whether it's public speaking. Just seek how to grow yourself, and every day, just look, how can I grow? Even outside of your classes, because your classes definitely give you the intellectual material, but the university experience it's a 360 experience. It's a wholesome experience at the end of the day, which involves a lot more than just academics, as I think everyone's kind of mentioned here. And with that, I will thank all of our panelists, Andrea, Anna, Hiro, Jolly. Thank you for joining. It's been a privilege to hear from your experiences. And thank you for taking out your time from your busy days. And thank you to our audience as well. Feel free to reach out to the Berkeley International Office if you have questions related to transitioning to Berkeley as an international student, or anything else related to your visas or the process next steps onwards. There's also other resources on campus as well with regards to new students. So please do refer to your new students materials and reach out appropriately and accordingly. And with that, I'd say go Bears.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.